In 1980, a woman named Mary Moore, who lives in the same Northern California town where the Bohemian Grove is located, about an hour north of San Francisco, founded what she called the Bohemian Grove Action Network for the purpose of infiltrating the elite organization by having people get summer jobs there or convincing those who already work there to steal membership lists, program guides, and other information in order to expose it. Mary, who turns 88 years old this month, also organized demonstrations outside the Grove beginning in the 1980s, consisting mainly of left-wing hippies who were concerned about the big business, supposedly environmentally unfriendly Republicans inside, and due to all the attention that she was generating, in 1982, a reporter from Time magazine decided to sneak inside, but his story was censored by the magazine and never published. A reporter from the now defunct Spy magazine named Philip Weiss was able to sneak inside in 1989 and did publish an article titled "Masters of the Universe Go to Camp Inside the Bohemian Grove," detailing what he had witnessed. One of the things he saw was a lakeside talk, which is a speech given every afternoon by one of the elitists in attendance. This one by General John Chain, who urged his fellow Bohemian Grove members to pull some strings to get the $45 billion in funding for the B-2 bomber program. So this is not just a vacation spot or a summer camp for the wealthy and politically connected. There's so much more going on there, and I'll get into that in a moment. But first, subscribe to my channel if you're new here, because you're not going to get information and analysis like this anywhere else. A few years after the Spy magazine reporter snuck in and witnessed a top-secret lakeside talk, a reporter for People magazine named Dirk Matheson was able to sneak inside in 1991 and wandered around for a bit, but he was eventually spotted and kicked out. And after he wrote a story about his experience that was supposed to appear in the August 5th, 1991 edition of People magazine, it never did. And once you're done watching this video, by the way, head on over to Amazon and order my book, Bohemian Grove Facts and Fiction. Click the link in the description below, because there's so much more than I can get into in this brief video. In July of the year 2000, Alex Jones from InfoWars successfully infiltrated the Bohemian Grove and actually videotaped the cremation of care ritual, which kicks off the party, and got out with the footage. He cut a hole in the side of a shoulder bag and mounted a camcorder inside and sat in the bleachers with the rest of the members and guests and just watched it unfold. Obviously, back then, few people knew who he was, and he was able to blend in with the other guests without being recognized. He was accompanied by his then producer, Mike Hansen, and a British journalist named John Ronson, who didn't actually go inside, but kind of tagged along and documented their infiltration for an episode of his television series, The Secret Rulers of the World, which follows Ronson around as he investigates supposedly claims of what he calls conspiracy theorists surrounding the New World Order. Ronson is a skeptic and makes fun of his subjects and tries to debunk their claims, but after Alex Jones and Mike Hansen emerged from the Bohemian Grove with the footage in hand, even John Ronson was surprised that the conspiracy theorists were right. The cremation of care ritual is real. To be clear, it's not a real person that they're burning on the altar, at least not these days, but it is a life-size effigy consisting of a metal skeleton that's wrapped in paper and placed in front of the giant Moloch-looking statue and burned to kick off their 2-week party. And shortly after Alex posted the footage online, a show called Washington Journal on C-SPAN discussed his infiltration with a scholarly conspiracy researcher named Michael Birkin, who ridiculed Jones and engaged in damage control.
Alex Jones has been talking about this for quite a while. The Bohemian Grove, of course, is a privately owned redwood grove up in Sonoma County, north of San Francisco, where every summer there is a get-together of the wealthy and well-placed, all male, who get together for general cavorting, socializing, lectures, symposia, and so on, in an atmosphere that is completely removed from public scrutiny. Alex Jones and some others have suggested for a long time that there are all sorts of nefarious rituals that go on, and as a matter of fact,
Alex Jones was right. In the summer of 2005, a man calling himself Codename Kyle got a job at the Bohemian Grove for the sole purpose of infiltrating the club and gathering photos and video evidence of what happens inside. And he was able to get some photos of some of the camps and elaborate clubhouses, and even some close-up pictures of the site of the cremation of care ritual, including the effigy used during the ceremony. His photos clearly show that the object burned on the altar is in fact a life-size human effigy. It consists of a metal skeleton that's wrapped in paper, and he told me that he was able to inspect the effigy shortly before the cremation of care in 2005 and stuck his hand inside the paper wrapping to feel around if by any chance there was an actual person or a child or a vial of blood inside. But he said that it was just paper wrapped around the metal skeletal frame. His photos and videos were included in Alex Jones' 2005 documentary film The Order of Death, a sequel to Dark Secrets Inside Bohemian Grove, which first showed the footage that Alex shot in July of the year 2000. In 2011, the History Channel's Decoded series, hosted by conspiracy whitewasher Brad Meltzer, included an episode about the Bohemian Grove, and the show's investigators paddled down a river in canoes and entered the forest from the riverbank that runs alongside the edge of the Grove's property, and they were discovered immediately and arrested for trespassing. This wasn't even during the summer encampment in July, so they wouldn't have even found anything interesting happening inside anyway. The show didn't even include any of Alex Jones' footage of the cremation of care ritual because the host, Brad Meltzer, said the History Channel's lawyers were afraid they would get sued for airing it since it was technically obtained illegally because Alex was trespassing. At the end of the show, the investigators talked about their experience and arrest, with one of them saying this.
I had 9 hours of incarceration to think about this. The more I thought about it, the less I was bothered by the Grove. Even though they had just arrested me, I sort of felt like they're allowed to do this. It's their property, and if they want to continue to have presidents and Saudi princes and military leaders come here, they need to promise those guys that they'll be safe.
Another of the investigators concluded,
"There's nothing nefarious going on here. It's just, like you said, buddy, a bunch of businessmen in a men's club."
nothing strange at all. Move along. Brad Meltzer was friends with George Bush Sr., by the way, who he says gave him the idea for the plot of his novel, The Inner Circle, which is about a secret society that's been operating in Washington, D.C. ever since the United States was founded. This secret society isn't the Illuminati or any group with ill intentions, no. It turns out to be a good secret society that George Washington started called the Culper Ring, which was an actual spy ring that operated during the Revolutionary War to gather intel on the British Army, which Meltzer's book claims is still in existence today to help protect America. It's likely the History Channel's investigators' arrests were staged in order to send a warning to viewers not to attempt to try to sneak into the Bohemian Grove. As someone who's been involved with a few different reality television shows myself, I can tell you there's not much reality in them. Scenes are staged and shot out of sequence to simplify the production schedule and then edited together to make it appear as if they were shot in chronological order. There's all kinds of stuff that the audience doesn't know, but which any common sense person suspects since it is network television. I was featured in a 2011 pilot with Tommy Lee from Motley Crue for a conspiracy investigator show that never got picked up. I posted about it on Facebook back at the time. This isn't like some new revelation. As well as a pilot episode for a Penn and Teller show where the producers flew me to Washington, D.C., but that didn't get picked up either. And I've been in pitch meetings in the Hollywood offices of the Discovery Channel, HBO, and a bunch of other networks. So I'm very familiar with how these shows work. In 2013, Colin Powell's personal email was hacked into by a hacker calling himself Goosifer, and Powell's inbox contained some photos of him and his buddies inside the Bohemian Grove, and one of the emails was from a News Corp executive, that's the parent company of Fox News, from Andrew Knight, who asked Powell to basically tell the British Prime Minister Tony Blair at the time that he needed to attend the Bohemian Grove that summer, and that Tony had not got his priorities strayed. So apparently he needed to spend a little bit of time with the Illuminati. I mean, the Bohemian Grove members. In 2012, I attended the Occupy Bohemian Grove protest where hundreds of people gathered outside the entrance to raise awareness of the club. And as you can see, dozens of police officers were wearing riot gear, standing guard in order to prevent the crowd from marching inside. I captured this footage of a canine unit patrolling the perimeter of the property. But if you really want to know how the Bohemian Grove functions as an elite ruling class consensus building secret society, then order my book, The Bohemian Grove, Facts and Fiction, in paperback from Amazon.com, or download the ebook from any of the major ebook stores. There's so much more to the story than the cremation of care, some of which is so bizarre and disgusting I don't even like to talk about it. But if you could stomach it, it's all covered in detail in my book. So head on over to Amazon.com or click the link in the description below and check it out.